Hi there, Mark here again. Welcome to the second video in my build series of the Tamiya DT03 chassis. It eventually will become a racing fighter, but at the moment this is a generic chassis build, so whichever DT03 you've got, you can follow along with this. In the last video we finished off parts bag A. Now it's time to open parts bag B on step 14, which is making up the differential gear. Here we have parts bag B, and the part we need for this are the differential gears. Again, just make sure on the left here shows which parts we need, match those up. So you need your differential case and you need the top cap. Simply a case of putting these bevels onto the star shaft. You need to grease all this up, put your bottom large bevel gear in, like so. The star shaft then goes into those slots, and then your large bevel on the top. On with the cap, and then the 3 screws in like so. But obviously you need to put your grease on all these components. I'm actually going to pack this completely with grease. I've got a big tub of grease. I'm going to fill it to the top and hopefully give it a little bit more resistance, kind of a limited slip way. So I'll just get the grease in and screw that up now. Okay, so that's the differential finished, all screwed together. So step 14 finished, onto step 15, which is attaching the counter gear, which is this. It says use the bushings, but I'm replacing mine with a 1050 bearings. They're just pushing the end. Just need something to push the bearing in properly, so it's seated all the way in. It does say to grease this shaft, but I think that's only if you've got the bushings. Obviously the bearings have got their own lubrication inside. You don't need to lubricate the shaft, and that's a nice tight fit on those bearings. So yeah, just spins around nicely in there, and then we put this into A1, and that'll go up here like so. And again, just make sure you cover it with grease. On to step 16, 17. Just need the other side of the gearbox case, which is A3. You get your metal bearings or your bushings if you're using them. Pop them into those recesses. Nice, again, tight click home, which is always preferable to being loose. Fitted the one in the other side. Now all we've got to do is put these halves together with this in the middle. Again, okay, so that's it assembled with the 4 screws in, 1, 2, 3, and 1 in that hole there. So that's that complete. Step 17 is just getting your spur gear, put your bushes or bearings, 1 in each side, put the shaft in the middle. We need a bit of grease on this here. So step 18 is attaching the motor and your pinion gear. Again, so this is where I'm going to differ from the standard kit, because I have the hop-up option of the 08 module steel pinion gear. I've gone for the 19 tooth, which is going to gear it up a bit, make it a bit faster. This will outlast the stock aluminium one 10 times over, so it's well worth the upgrade, even if you're going to go for the 17 tooth steel upgrade. And another deviation is this little beauty. I've gone for a 13.5 turn censored brushless. That's where the sensor cable goes. I need to solder some connections onto this, but I can do that while it's located in the gearbox. There's enough room for me to get solder on there without melting anything, I hope. So I'm going to attach this now as per the instructions for the standard motor. So first thing, let's get the spur on. Just put some grease on it first. So that goes in there like so. Now the tricky bit now is going to be getting this motor with the motor plate, which I am going to use on this, just helps to keep the seal better with the plastic gearbox and also with the heat transference. So I'm going to try and line this up because I'm going for the 19 tooth pinion. I need to use these two holes here, so that will be that hole and that one. It's clearly marked actually. I don't know whether you can see here, but it's clearly marked on the actual casing which ones to use anyway, so difficult to go wrong there. So I'm just going to get the two machine screws which are BB1s, and I'm going to try and fit that on now. So that's the motor mounted in. I've got the connections as near to the top as I can, pointing upwards, because obviously the cables are going to go that way into the back of the car. Yeah, I've used the right teeth, I think, the 19 tooth holes. And now you need to get your pinion, and this goes on, like it shows here, kind of backwards to what you'd expect. So it goes on like so. All I need to do now is get some grease around this. It looks like it's meshing up quite nicely. Just check that that's okay. It's not too tight, it's not too loose. And then we're going to put the cover on, which is step 19. Okay, so there's the 3 screws fitted, step 19 finished, and that's the gearbox assembly, transmission assembly finished. Step 20 is attaching the rear lower arms, which are D6s. So again, following the orientation of the diagram, if we turn it upside down like so, what you need are these BB7s, the long screw pins. You basically fit it like this, but I'm not going to do that. Well, I am, but not using this. I've got a couple of DT-02s already, and I've found that these rust very easily, and also they're made of mild steel, and you'd be surprised, a small knock into the suspension and these will bend and lock up your suspension arms basically. So we've got these hop-up options, which are it's for an MO5 stainless steel suspension shaft set. I'm hoping one of these will be the right length. There's a couple of these hop-up options of stainless steel shafts available. Basically just have a look what you can find on the internet. Most of these are like quite modular, the Tamiya stuff, so you've got a good chance of one of them fitting. Okay, so that's perfect. I don't know if you can see there's just enough room sticking out each end. What we do is going to put a circlip or an E-clip onto that. They are very fiddly, I must say though, but the stainless steel, it isn't going to rust, it's going to stay a nice smooth pivot, and stainless steel is a lot tougher than ordinary mild steel. It's kind of much harder to bend. So these are the tiny E-clips. I'll just get those on now, slide through, and then I just need to get the E-clip on the other end there. So yeah, just clip that on with a pair of flat nose pliers. Yeah, there's not much movement there, I'm pleased with that. So I'll just get the other side clipped on in the same fashion. So step 21 is attaching the rear upper arms, which are these, and they go on this top mount here with the screw pin like so. But if you watched part 1 of the build, you'll know that I'm not using the top arms, so these are going away, and I've made these adjustable top arms. They're a little bit shorter than the front ones. What I did was got the original, and this is going to go across like so. So I used that length approximately, so I can put some negative camber on the back. You can see they're connected on now using just a bolt and a nut. And to finish off this step 21, we just need to get the output shafts, as I call them, output drive cups, and just fit one in each side, and then straight on to step number 22. So this part involves attaching the rear axles, which are parts N1, and these go into B2, which is like the axle carriers. They need to have a ball bearing or your bushing inserted in there. Just clicks into place again, and then both shafts are the same. They go through like that, and we attached this to the bottom wishbone like this. I've already done this side. It calls for the pin again, the screw pin, but again I'm using the HopUp option stainless steel shafts. So there's one that, if you can see there, it was slightly too long, so I've had to put some shims either side to make it fit correctly. But those are also Tamiya hop-ups. You can buy the various width of shims. So I've got one here for this side. Just show you. I'm going to pop that one on. So push it into place. I'm going to push my pin through. As you can see, there's still a little too long left sticking out, so put one of the shims on there like so, and I'll just get the circlip or E-clip in place. Okay, so they're both fitted on. I just need now to put a nut and a bolt through each of these top arms, and not forgetting first, which I've done many times before, to fit your drive shaft in there before you put the top arm on, otherwise you will not be able to get it in. So when 22 is done, step 22, this is what it should look like. The suspension should move freely up and down. Obviously don't forget drive shafts in there, and we're ready to move on to step 23. It's just a matter of getting this part M8, which is this. It says here it's fit the receiver switch to the rear of it. Obviously it's not the receiver switch, it's the ESC switch. Fit that to the back with the 2 screws. I use the ones that were already in the switch itself, and don't forget to put the rubber cover over there, keep the dust and debris out. And then it's just a matter of connecting this with your 4 10mm screws to the back of your gearbox assembly. Okay, so that's M8 fitted to the gearbox assembly. It is quite difficult to screw these 4 screws in, because the gearbox assembly is made from this really hard plastic, whereas this M8, interestingly enough, is a much softer plastic. Clever how Tamiya have done that, because obviously you've got the brittle plastic here, it's going to connect to the brittle plastic of the chassis, and that gives a little bit of absorption, I think, in between. So nice design there. Right, so we're going to connect it now. You need these 2 C3s. Make sure you get them the right way around. It's quite easy to see. There's kind of indentations on the one side and smooth on the other. You want the smooth side up, and the 2 bevels pointing inwards like so. You're going to need 4 countersunk screws that are going to go underneath. They're going to go under there. Those are countersunk, so make sure you get those. And you've got the 2 BA4s. Make sure they're the 12mm ones, a bit longer than the 10s we've been using. So 2 of those. So it's just a matter of putting these 2 plates in place, your C3s, and then carefully get your mount. That will slot into the hole in the chassis, and yeah, you can hear it click then into place below. So there's your 4 countersunk screws on the bottom. Starting to look a bit more like a buggy chassis now, isn't it? I'm really enjoying this one. It looks cracking, I think. Yeah, and you've got the 2 screws, one in there and one in there, that holds the top of the gearbox. And that is the end of parts bag B. On to parts bag C. We're going to build the shocks, well, one of them anyway. Because this has got the hop-up set, we now forget the manual for a moment, move that out of the way, open parts bag C, in which we have the DT03 CVA damper set. You've got your oil, you've got your springs, you've got your bodies, seals and the other plastic components. I'm just going to show you building one. I think I'll put one of the longer shocks together. The procedure for all the rest is exactly the same. So yeah, let's get on with that one. So these are the parts you need for one shock. This is one of the longer ones, the rear shocks. So quick look at the instructions. What we need to do is put the two O-rings in, and it's showing to put this X3 part in, which I think will restrict the travel. I think I'm going to leave that out, we'll see. I might put it back in later, but that's quite easy because we just take X2 off and we can change it. And we need to put some oil, some shock oil on these seals and on the shaft. I think that's to stop any damage when your threads are going through those O-rings. So first things first, this is the soft oil that you get with the kit. I've put that in the front shocks that I've made because there's no weight on the front. It seems quite a nice bit of damping, but the rear there's a lot more weight, so I'm going to go with this 700 weight oil, or number 700, just to try and firm the back up a bit. Don't worry if you've got this stuff, just go with that. You can always tune it up later if you feel you need to. So what I do is put a bit of oil in here, insert the first O-ring, a bit more oil. I don't think you can really have too much. Your second O-ring, and again a drop more oil just to make sure, and get this small cap, screw that on, but don't, at this point, don't tighten it up all the way. You don't want to squash those O-rings in before you've got the shaft in. So again, put a little bit of oil on the shaft, and I'll show you a little trick now that I've learned with making these shock bodies up. If we put this in, so the pin's just coming out the end, it's blocking the holes now. What I'm going to do is put a lot of oil in like this, and what you'll find is you get much less trapped air underneath that piston. So, and then push it in and slowly pull it down. You should hopefully, when you put your seal cap on, there will be a bit of oil flow out like so. It shows you've got it filled right to the top. So what we want, and then screw on the top cap and then tighten them against each other like that. And it's simply a case of screwing the bottom eye connector on, or ball connector, and then it's a case of sliding on the spring at the bottom holder. And if you notice, there's a bit of movement here, a bit of slack. So what I'm going to do is, as it recommends, put the 3 clips on the top, the 3 spacers, and put that with the rest, and there's my shocks finished. So there you have the progress so far. It's looking a lot more like a buggy now, isn't it? Got the 4 shocks ready to go on, but for that I need to open parts bag D, but that will be on the next instalment. It's a good place to finish up now, so next time we'll be finishing off the chassis and getting that lovely bodywork prepared and finishing the whole car. I hope you've enjoyed following along. Thanks for having me, and enjoy your RCing, guys, and hope to see you on the next one. Bye.